Hi everyone, so in this video what I'd like to talk about is 5 reasons that men don't leave their abusive relationships. And the reason I want to focus on this topic is because I feel that every time I go on YouTube, people are saying that it's not discussed enough male domestic violence. There are more videos and more information about domestic violence where women are victims, and I've also made my own video about reasons that women don't leave their relationships, but this is focusing on men. So I've worked for a charity which was for women called Women's Aid, but I've also provided counselling to perpetrators of violence and also to male domestic violence victims. So I do feel really passionate about this area. So the first reason that men sometimes decide not to leave their abusive relationships, and it's not a conscious decision meaning that they don't want to. This is just one of the reasons that can either prevent them from doing so, and that is that there's not enough resources or services and refuges for men. There tends to be a lack of information overall, so that men are going to either have to find that out through being recommended by someone, or they're going to have to do a lot of research, but there is not as much information out there. So the reason for that is because, as I've said, the majority of victims of domestic violence are women. You know, there's no debate on that. The statistics wise, women are more likely to be victims. However, when men are in domestic violence situations, that some of the reasons I'm going to talk about here mean that it's unlikely that they're going to seek the help they need, whereas women know that there are refuges out there. They know that probably someone they know has also been in that situation. They can rely on them. There's a lot more information, a lot more of the adverts. Everything is geared towards women. So for men, that's one of the reasons that kind of puts the barrier up, because they just don't know what's out there. The second one is fear of judgment for speaking out. So in society generally, women are normally the ones that talk to their friends, their family, are much more open about their feelings if they're in a situation. Not all. There are lots of women who are in abusive relationships where their family and friends don't know. But in general, women feel that they can talk about this issue without the same level of judgment. Even if I go onto YouTube, or I've heard discussions where people will say to men, why don't you hit her back? You're not a man. You're weak for allowing a woman to abuse you. There's lots of short films about this where it just shows that men don't get the same level of respect. There's a lot of judgment, and this comes from society. So if a man is in this situation, they're going to have to weigh up, is it worth it? Is it worth telling anyone because I'm going to be judged? I'm going to be thought of as weak. And for many men, they don't want to go through that. The third one is feeling like it's their fault. So feeling like, I'm a man, I should be able to do something to change this situation. If my woman is hitting me or being verbally abusive or emotionally abusive or controlling, it's my fault. It's something I've done. And this is another society thing, because society tends to think that if a woman gets angry at a man, it's because he's cheated or it's because he's drove her to it. And I've seen comments on YouTube videos where people have said, why didn't he do this? When even the male has been the victim. It's his fault because he was nagging her. It's his fault because he shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have pushed her. He should have known what was going on in her life. He should have known this and that. You know, there's not the same level of sympathy towards men. So, you know, that's what ingrains a man when they're in that situation. Who's going to listen to me? Who's going to believe me? Am I going to be judged? And then they might internalize the feeling that it's their fault, and therefore they have to find a way of changing it. They have to become different. They have to behave different. They have to deal with it themselves. The fourth one is giving up. So this happens for men and women. If I've heard stories of women that have been in domestic violence relationships 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I mean, the idea of being in a relationship where that, even though it might not be daily, so people will say, well, they're not getting beaten up every day. It's still the fact that you're in this abusive relationship where there is mistreatment for that level of time. Some people get to a point where they just give up and they say, do you know what, this is how it is, I'm just going to have to accept it, this is my life. And they stop fighting, they stop trying to get help, they stop arguing with the person, they just accept it. And for people like that, sometimes it gets to the point where they become depressed, so then it feels even harder for them to take action. Sometimes people commit suicide because they just think that's the only way out. But giving up is when you give up emotionally, but then possibly in some cases your body physically just shuts down because you've been beaten up so many times that you can't fight back anymore. So you just decide, to give up. And it's not giving up in the sense of you're consciously making that decision. Sometimes it's unconsciously, you just have got nothing to say anymore, so you become very robotic with your answers. You become very detached from what's happening. You have to survive, so you have to imagine that you're somewhere else, or you just switch off. And the final one is a lack of awareness of the danger. Now this is one that men don't always consider. So a lot of the stories I've seen, whether it's on Snapped or Deadly Women, or whether it's on YouTube, or whether it's just what I've heard, men underestimate the level of danger that they're in. And what I mean by that is that men assume that because it's a woman, I'm not going to be at the same level of risk, of being hurt or killed. Now, the difficulty is a weapon. If someone's using a gun or a knife, regardless of who they're using that against, the level of danger is the same. So what can happen in these abusive relationships? It can start off verbal, with the woman just being really verbally abusive towards the man. It can lead to control, the woman sort of, dictating where the man goes, putting trackers on their vehicles, asking to see their phone. And maybe there isn't as much physical to start with. It might just be the odd, slap or punch. And the man might think it's never going to escalate. Now, in a lot of these cases, what happens is the man might just be in the kitchen and thinking, oh, she's in a bad mood and it's only going to lead to a slap. The woman could grab a frying pan, or the woman could grab a knife, stab him, and then that's it, death. And that has happened a number of times. I've heard stories like that. So when a man is in an abusive relationship, they don't think about the end result. So they never think it's going to lead to me being killed by my partner. They think, one day she's going to stop beating on me, or I'm going to be able to do something to resolve this, or this is going to change, someone's going to intervene. There's never, and I think for this is men and women, you have to, don't underestimate the level of danger that you're in. So one of the things I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be going live, I'm going to be talking about walking away from an abusive relationship. Now, every single domestic violence video I've watched, or anything to do with domestic violence, there's always people saying, I can't walk away. It's not easy to walk away. Why are people just saying to walk away? And we all know that it's not easy, that it's dangerous, that there are some things that will trigger someone that you're leaving. But the reason I talk about walking away, and I'm going to be talking about it in my videos, is because either you're in a tricky situation either way, because the belief is that when someone stays in these types of relationship, they always believe that there's hope that it will turn around. They'll always believe that the person that they saw in the beginning will return. They always believe that it's not going to happen to them. It's not going to lead to death. And the problem is, it does. Majority of the time it does. If someone, so the abuse just escalates to the point where then it ends up being deadly. So they're the 5 reasons that I can think of. There's probably lots of other reasons as well, but they're the ones that I think are really significant and really common. Please feel free to leave your comments, and if you're watching this video and you feel triggered by it, or it's stirred up some sort of feelings for you, then feel free to reach out to your local domestic violence services, to Google those services, to watch some videos that might be informative, and just, there is help out there. So that's the main thing, what I want you to take from this video. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to leave your comments as we can learn from each other. Also feel free to share, and if you enjoyed the video, then feel free to consider subscribing to my channel. Take care. Bye.